Welcome students, thank you for being here. The previous session just we went for discussing about design flow. Right? In this design flow, just we discussed about the architectural exploration, functional design, functional verification. In this session, let me go with synthesis, physical design. In design optimization, let us go with area optimization, timing optimization, and power optimization. Right? Synthesis. Synthesis usually we go for calling that as a netlist. Right, in simple or in general we go for calling that as a netlist. Netlist means it consists of the interconnected gates to give the functionality which has been earlierly designed with the help of RTL components. Right, synthesis transforms, we can define synthesis transforms the simple RTL design into a gate level netlist with all the constraints as specified by the designer. That means that just we are going to convert an RTL design into a gate level netlist. RTL in the sense, RTL design in the sense, RTL design is made up of RTL components. We go for designing with the help of RTL components, which we go for calling it as an RTL design. That will be converted into, or that will be transferred into gate level netlist, wherein which we go for getting the same functionality of the RTL design with the help of the interconnection of the gates. We go for calling that as a gate level netlist. Or in simple, synthesis is a process that converts the abstract form of design to a properly implemented chip in terms of logic gates. Synthesis takes place in multiple steps, converting RTL into simple logic gates, I told you, mapping those gates to actual technology, dependent logic gates available in the technology libraries, optimizing the mapped netlist, keeping the constraints set by the designers intact. Right? This is about the brief description about your synthesis. After functional design, we know very well, and verification of a digital system, the next stage in the design flow is synthesis. Refinement of the functional design to a gate level netlist, right, is the thing which you have to study. If a design is complex, that is, it has very high performance requirements and is implemented and it will be implemented as application specific integrated circuits. It may be custom design, the circuitry of some systems. That means that if the design is complex, if it needs high performance, right, it will be implemented with the help of application specific integrated circuits, and we may go for custom design. Custom design in the sense, whatever the design which we go for designing, we go for the abstract level. A simple thing will be designed at the time of custom design. Right? Further, we focus on automatic RTL synthesis, particularly as it is used for FPGA based designs. That means that in case of FPGA based designs, we go with automatic RTL synthesis. Right? A synthesis tool starts by analyzing the model such as checking for unconnected outputs, undriven inputs, and multiple drivers on non-resolved signals. The tool then infers in the sense it conclude hardware constructs for the model. This involves things like analyzing wire and variable declaration to determine the encoding and the number of bits required to represent the data, analyzing expressions and assignments to identify combinational circuit elements such as adders and multiplexers, and to identify the input, output, and intermediate signal connections. Right? Analyzing always, that is analyzing always blocks to identify the clock and control signal to the select the appropriate kinds of flip-flops and register to use. For each of these infinite hardware constraints, the synthesis tools determines an implementation using primitive circuit elements selected from a technology library. This is a collection of components that are available within the implementation fabric selected from the design. For ASICs, The technology library is usually provided as part of a larger design kit by the ASIC vendor, that is, the company will ultimately manufacture the ASIC design. For FPGAs, the FPGAs, the technology library is usually embedded in the tools provided by the FPGA vendor. Typically, components in a technology library include inverting and non-inverting gates with a small number, it may be of 2 to 4 of inputs, small multiplexers, carry chain components, and flip-flops. Right? The process of translating the design into a circuit of library component is guided by synthesis constraints that we specify. The process of translating the design into a circuit of library components, which will be guided by synthesis constraints that we specify. Such constraints includes bounds on clock periods and propagation delays. The synthesis tool uses the constraints to choose among alternative implementations. Right? First, let me see the reasons for gate level simulation. First, the technology library includes estimates of timing parameters of the components used in the gate level design. The gate level simulation allows us to verify that the design still meets functional requirements, taking into account the timing parameters. It may expose suitable timing errors that were not evident in the RTL code. Second, there are ways in which we can write RTL model code that produce different behavior in the RTL simulation and the synthesized hardware. Right? This is about your synthesis. Next, we go for physical design. The final stage in the design flow is physical design, in which we refine the gate level design into an arrangement of circuits elements in an application specific integrated circuits, or build the programming file that configures each element in an FPGA. Right? Next, physical design for ASICs in its basic form consists of floor planning, placement, and routing. Let me go with the floor planning. This floor planning involves deciding where each of the blocks in the partition design is to be located on the chip. This particular physical design is just like building your house. Floor planning. Whenever we want to build any house, just we go for having a planning where the floor has to be kept, where the placement, right? That means where the kitchen has to be placed, where the hall has to be placed, where the bathroom has to be placed, and routing. The interconnection between this placement and routing, that is the just if we were to go for taking an example of a dining hall with the kitchen, the routing, the placement, or how we go for connecting a dining hall with the kitchen should be having a shorter distance here. That we go for calling it as a routing here. Placement and routing. Right. Now, floor planning involves deciding where each of the blocks in the partition design is to be located on the chip. Let us see the factors that influence the floor plan. Blocks that have a large number of connections between them should be placed near each other, since that reduces wire length and wiring congestion. This is the one factors that influence the floor plan. That means that blocks that have a large number of connections between them should be placed near to each other, since that reduces wire length and wiring congestion. Similarly, blocks that are connected to external pins should be placed near the edge of the chip. The position of these blocks also determines the allocation and positioning of pins for external connections. The block should be arranged to make the chip as close to square as possible, since that influences the size of the package that can be used. Square chips are easier to package than rectangular chips. Floor planning also involves the arrangement of power supply and ground pins and interconnections, and importantly the connection and distribution of clock signals across the chip. Finally, floor planning also involves provision of channel for laying out interconnection between blocks. Devising a good floor plan for a ASIC can be quite challenging. EDA tools can assist by providing graphical tools to help us visualize floor plans and rearrange blocks, ensuring all the time that a floor plan is feasible and by analyzing alternative floor plans to determine figure of merit. This is about the floor planning here. Let me go for placement and routing. Having determined a floor plan for a ASIC, we then proceed to placement and routing. This step involves positioning each cell in a synthesized design, we go for calling it as a placement, and finding a path for each connection, we go for calling it as a routing. We go for designing, we know very well that any system will be divided into subsystem, and that system has to be placed inside the chip so that the interconnection between the subblocks should be, the wire should be very less. In this manner, just we go for having the placement and routing here. The main goals are to position all cells and route all connection while minimizing area and delay of critical signals. Many of the signal integrity issues come into play in this stage. That means that it depends upon the length of the wire. If the length of the wire is more, just the signal integrity issues comes out here. The result of placement and routing is a suite of files to send to the chip foundry for fabrication. We can also generate detailed timing information based on actual position of components and wires and use this in a more accurate simulation model of a gate level design. This detailed timing simulation is a final check that our design meets its timing constraints. Placement and routing are largely automated by EDA tools. You know what is EDA tools? Electronics Device Automation Tools. The FPGA chip designers would have used ASIC design techniques for physical design of the FPGA chip, but that is a separate process completed before we start our physical design targeted at the FPGA. Physical design for FPGAs also starts with floor planning, but the problem is much more constrained. A good arrangement of blocks in the FPGA fabric reduces the number of long distance interconnects, giving a faster and more readily routed implementation. It also specifies connections to I/O blocks and their associated pins. Just this is about your physical design. Just we go for explaining what is floor planning, how we go for having a floor planning, what are the factors influencing your floor planning. Then we go with the placement and routing, that in case of your ASIC and FPGA. We go for the next topic, design optimization. We have studied design flow assuming design meets constraints at each stage. The design meets constraints at each stage. In most of your design projects, right, this ideal situation does not hold good. We need to perform some optimization of the design, possibly making trade-off of one property against other. That means that we can't go for having an 100% optimization any of the thing here. Just you have to go for having a trade-off between them. If we discover during some stage of the design flow that there is no feasible optimization, we need to revisit earlier stages to revise design choices we had previously made. Just we had shown that in the flow chart of the design flow. Currently, if it doesn't meet the design constraints, you have to go back to that particular stage and just you have to go for redesigning the things, right? Thus, realistic designs are not linear, starting with design concepts and leading directly to final implementation. That is, realistic designs are not linear. Instead, they are cyclic, with the design evolving as more back-end implementation detail informs design choices made in front-end stages. right? We consider three main properties of a design, usually constraint and seek to optimize. Here we go with area optimization, timing optimization, and power optimization. At each stage of the design flow, we can make decisions that affects these properties. Many of the decisions also affect other aspects of the system, so we must make trade-off among the properties. Just if we go for taking an example of our area optimization, timing optimization, and power optimization, I can't go for optimization of all these factors here. Let it be area, timing, and power. I can't go for optimizing all this particular area, timing, and power to an 100%. That means that I have to go for having the trade-off between these particular area, timing, and power. Right? This is the meaning of that's the thing which you have to consider in case of your design optimization. Let me go for area optimization. The area of a circuit is a significant determinant of cost. If that area it depends on a significant determinant of cost. That means that if I want to go for having reducing the cost means the area of the design which I go for designing should be obviously less. For circuit implemented as chips, the cost of fabricating circuits on a wafer is distributed among the chips on that wafer. Larger chips thus take on a larger share of the wafer fabrication cost. Further, since chips are rectangular and wafers are circular, larger chips leave more wasted area near the edge of the wafers, so the proportion of wafers cost borne by each chip is not simply the ratio of chip area to wafer area. Instead, the relationship is non-linear. A further non-linearity arises from the fact that larger area increases the likelihood of defect occurring on any given chip and causing the chip not to function. Since non-functional chips must be discarded after the wafer is fabricated, the remaining functional chips must bear the cost of the fabricating and testing the non-functional chips. Obviously, we have to go for that one, with where the chip is working, where we have to throw out the chips which is we have to discard the chips which is not working, and obviously we have to put the cost on the chips which have been fabricated. This leads to the final chip cost being approximately proportional to the square of the chip area. That means that when we can conclude that we can have an approximation that uh, this lead to the final chip cost being approximately proportional to the square of the chip area. Next, the chip must be packaged. A larger chip requires a larger and more costly package than a smaller chip. Also, since the chip is presumably larger because it has more transistors than the smaller chip, it consumes more power and so the resulting heat must be dissipated. You go for using more transistor for designing, obviously we go for having much heat. That heat has to be dissipated at the time of packaging. There, these effects are these effects also lead to package costs that are non-linearly related to area. Therefore, we can only affect cost indirectly through managing the area of our designing. Right? One of the goals of floor planning is to find an arrangement of blocks that minimizes the area. Floor planning to find an arrangement of blocks that minimizes the area. We can also do some floor planning at the preliminary level as part of the partitioning step of architectural exploration. Right? At the partitioning step, we can also estimate the number of pins that will be required for the chip. Just at the partitioning time itself, we can go for estimating the number of pins that will be required for the chip. since that will influence the floor plan. In particular, if the pin count is large, the area required for a patterning may constrain the overall area of the chip, leading to consideration of alternative architecture with reduced pin counts. In the functional design stage, if we come for a functional design stage of the design flow, we can influence circuit area through our choice of components, whether explicitly instantiated or implied by RTL model code. Example, let us take an example. Different forms of adders and multipliers have differing circuits complexity and n circuit area traded off against propagation delay or cycle count for performing an operation. Right? Let me go for this synthesis stage. In the synthesis stage, we can influence the circuit area by specifying constraints to the synthesis tool. At a at a broad level, we can direct the tool to use a synthesis strategy that favors minimizing area instead of delay, or to use additional effort to optimize the design instead of reducing turnaround. In the case of hierarchically structured designs, we can direct the tool to try to optimize across block boundaries, possibly combining components from different blocks in order to reduce area. In cases where a tool does not automatically enforce use of special resources with an implementation fabrics such as RAMs, we might provide hints that specific parts of a design be implemented using special resources. Right? To come with the physical design stage. Finally, in the physical design stage, we can influence circuit area through intervention in the floor planning, placement, and routing of the circuit. At this level, however, we are just fine tuning. We cannot readily change the number or kind of components used or the amount of connectivity of the wiring between them. That is why decisions made earlier in the flow have more significant impact. Just we will be seeing many other things there. That means when you go for seeing the flow chart, you will not be aware of how we go for having the different optimization in different stages. Just I have taken many of the stages here. It may just I told you if the number of transistors which you go for using makes the transistor to become bigger in size. Therefore, the area will be more. Therefore, it affects the cost here. Just we have gone for floor planning to find an arrangement of blocks that minimizes area. Just in this case, just I have considered some of the factors how I can go for influencing over the area optimization. In that just I have gone for explaining how we can go for minimizing your area in case of your partitioning step, functional design stage, synthesis stage, and physical design stage. Let me come for timing optimization. In this just we have considered about architectural exploration stage, functional design stage, synthesis design stage, physical design stage. Let me come for having a brief introduction about your timing optimization. The aim of timing optimization is to ensure that a design meets performance constraints. Performance and timings are essentially the inverses of each other. We usually think of performance in terms of number of operations completed per unit time. The inverse of this is the time taken to complete an operation. Our goal is to maximize the number of operations per second, right? This is the goal which you go for having. Let me come for architectural exploration stage. In the architectural exploration stage of the design flow, we have the greatest impact on performance through application of parallelism. Just we have a concept of pipeline parallelism, extends on simple task parallelism, breaking the task into a sequence of processing stage. Increasing parallelism is an conflict with minimizing area and power, since the extra resources required to realize the parallelism take up area and consume power. Thus, we aim to find a circuit for the block that performs the required operation in the least amount of time consistent with an other constraints. We need to make estimates of the clock frequency that can be achieved. The clock period constrains the propagation delay on combinational paths through the register transfer level circuits. That includes paths from block inputs through combination logic to register inputs and paths from register outputs through combination logic to block outputs. We should associate or we should allocate a timing budget to each block, specifying maximum clock to output delays and input to clock setup times for each block. And let me go for a functional design stage of the design flow. In a functional design stage of the design flow, we can influence through our choice of components. Just we'll be having a choice of components. This is a similar argument to that for influencing area in the functional design stage, except that the two objectives are in conflict with each other. That is less area, more time, and vice versa. Here, directives and ends are used to synthesis tool to optimize timing of the detailed design, and then analyze the resulting synthesized circuit to verify if the timing constraints are met. If they are not, we might revise the directives and ends and re-synthesize. If we are unable to meet constraints through this iterative process, we need to revisit earlier stages of the design flow and make larger changes to the design at higher levels of abstraction. Just obvious is more thing is the more we have to think about the flowchart which you have studied in the design flow. If we are unable to meet any constraints through this iterative process, obviously you have to go for revisiting your earlier stage and make larger changes to the design at higher levels of abstraction itself. Analyzing the synthesized design is typically done with a static timing analysis tool. The tool uses timing estimates for each of the components in the technology library together with simple wire load models. Since the design has not been placed and routed at this stage, the delays due to the length of wires can only be estimated. The static timing analysis tool aggregates the delay through combinational circuits and wiring between successive registers. If then identifies the critical path in the design and determines whether the clock period constraints is met. We go for the last thing with consideration with your timing optimization with the physical design stage of the design flow. In the physical design stage, we can fine tune timing by choice of placement of components and wires. Just we can go for fine tune timing by choice of placement of components and wires here. However, since this process is very computationally intensive, it is unlikely that we could do a better job manually than an idiot tool can do automatically. Once the physical design has been performed, it is possible to extract accurate delay values for component and wiring. Once the physical design has been performed, it is possible to extract accurate delay values for components and wirings. We can then repeat the static timing analysis using these values to verify whether timing constraints have been met. We can go for repeating the static timing analysis. Using these values, we can go for verifying whether timing constraints have been met. If they are not, we need to revisit earlier stages of the design flow to improve the timing of the circuit. That means that whatever the things in even in case of your area optimization or timing optimization, right, and forthcoming power optimization, if you are not satisfied with the constraints, just you have to go for revisiting the earlier stages and just you have to go for having that one. Right? Then we go for power optimization. As digital systems have become more complex, power consumption has become a more significant constraint in their design. This is particularly the case for mobile battery operated devices such as cell phones, PDAs, and portable media players. The amount of power consumed by the circuit directly affects how long the device functions on a simple battery charge, or alternately how large a battery is required. Obviously, the amount of power consumed by the circuit directly affects how long the device functions on a simple battery charge, or alternately how large a battery is required. Electrical power consumed by a circuit is turned into heat, which must be dissipated through the chip and systems packaging. Dealing with additional heat dissipation adds cost to the system, so keeping power consumption to a minimum is part of keeping costs down. That means that if you want to keep the cost down, that means dealing with additional heat dissipation has to be avoided, right? Hence, larger circuits generally contain more transistors, each of which consumes power. Next, larger circuits contain more transistors, each of which consumes power. However, there are other approaches we can consider that focus on power consumption. One such approach is to identify blocks of a system that remain ideal for sustainable periods during the system operation and to remove power from those blocks during ideal periods. That means that just we go for another approach. We go for identifying the blocks of a system that remain ideal for substantial periods during the system operation and to remove power from these blocks during ideal period. Just we don't go for giving the power supply at the time of ideal periods. Some laptop computers take this approach, for example, by powering down a network card when the computer is not connected to a network cable. This is an example wherein which you will not be giving power when it is ideal. While powering down blocks of a system can reduce average power consumption significantly, it is not simple to implement. Though it is, as we say, it's not so simple to implement. In particular, if another parts of the system to which the block is connected must continue operating, then the interface signals must be disabled to avoid spurious activation of the parts that remain active. Further, when power is restored to a block, it makes a significant number of clock cycles before the block can resume operation. This delay may affect performance, so the techniques is only appropriate when the delay can be tolerated. Right? These are the assumptions which you go for making with the other approaches. In a clocked synchronous digital system, we have many flip-flops, all of which are controlled by a global clock signal. This clocked synchronous digital system will be having many flip-flops which will be controlled by a global clock signal. Each flip-flop contains several transistors that switch state on clock edges even if the stored data does not change. These transitions consume power without affecting the computation performed by the circuit. If the performance requirements of a system are not constant, if the performance requirements of a system is not constant, means that is if there are periods when high performance is required and the other periods where lower performance is acceptable, we can reduce dynamic power consumption by reducing the clock frequency. This requires that the source of the clock signal be adjustable. We go for a clock gating here. Another way of another common way of reducing power in a complementary metal oxide semiconductor system is clock gating. This involves turning off the clock to parts of the circuits whose stored values do not need to change with clock gating. Right? The components see no clock transition when the clock is turned off, as shown in figure in this. This is the figure which has been shown here. Here, the clock is gated off for 2 cycles. Clock is gated off for 2 cycles. During that interval, the component consumes no dynamic power. At this time, it doesn't consume any dynamic power. Getting a clock is not as simple as inserting an AND gate in the clock signal. Given the delay is an AND gate, the resulting clock edges would be skewed from those of the ungated clock, making it different to meet timing constraints. Right? Let me go for seeing this one. Next figure. Since the gating control signal is typically generated by a clock control section, a naive approach lead to glitches on the gated clock signal as shown in figure. You can see the glitches in the clock signal as shown here. The glitch may cause unreliable triggering of the components to which the gate clock is connected. Right? You can see the glitches here. Further, if the control signal has glitches, for example, due to differing delays in paths to combinational logic that generates the signal, those glitches may be passed through to the gated clock. The gated clock. The solution of these problems is not to express the clock gating in the RTL model of the circuit. Rather, we should treat clock gating as a power optimization to be implemented by clock insertion tools during physical design. Right? Several synthesis tools can perform such power optimization. This particular topic which I explained in this session seems to be very theoretical, but when you go for doing all these things practically, you'll come to know the difficulty of how we have to go for optimizing each and every step, and how we go for having revising the flowchart in each step if you want to go for having the trade-off between this optimization. Finally, in the thank you students. In the next session, I will be covering design for test and non-technical issues. Thank you once again.